Shalom, shalom, it's the brother Kadash. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and honors to all the brothers in this truth. This is, it says Apocalypse Prophecies, Native End of the World Teachings. This is by, I believe they're called the Hopi tribe, the Hopi teaching. I got videos on them because they go into prophecies and we know that they're Israelites, and it matches up with the prophecies of the Bible, So what I like to do is go into some of their prophecies. I do this too with the guy called Damas that made prophecies and match them up to the Bible just to give, more understanding, and edify. And I seen this on the History Channel, so I looked it up, of course, and did some research on some of the prophecies that they were talking about. But I seen this on the History Channel. They have a new video up there of the Hopi tribe prophecies, and it's a really, really interesting. It's about like an hour-long documentary, and it's very interesting. It's really interesting. So I looked this up to go in through some of it. So right here, we're just going to pretty much jump straight into it. It says, in the Hopi's teachings, he began, we are told that towards the end of the world. So this is talking about, prophecies of the end of the world. But it says a spider woman would come back and she will weave her web across the landscape. So on a surface level, and the same thing with the Bible, it seems like, what are you talking about, a spider woman and stuff? But you have to really break it down to get the understanding. So let's jump. I think this is one of the elders. It says, I want to jump straight to the prophecies, Okay, so this is the start of the prophecies right here. It says, other hoping teachings refer to the nine signs. And that's what I want to go into. It's the 9 signs. There are 9 prophecies that the end of the world is going to happen. Because I believe that they believe that after the end of the world, there's going to be like a world where there's going to be everlasting peace, which we know that's talking about the kingdom of heaven. So you see the similarities. It says other hoping teachings refer to the 9 signs. The first sign said the white skinned man would come, right? So that's the first sign. Now we know that who the so-called white skinned man, called them white man, Caucasian man today on the earth. We know that they're not truly white, because white, if you take a color piece of paper which is white, or like the lady that you see, that's like a fairer skin. Not saying that she's an Edomite or not, but you see her mask has a little bit of white on it, but it's not the same color her skin. The Bible and the Lord refers to these people as being red. Not white, but they're red and pale. That's like a social construct that they made up, white and black. Nobody's really black, nobody's really white. Everybody's different shades of brown, and then Esau is red. So this is Genesis 25, so let's go in the Bible and match these things up to make it make sense. This is Genesis chapter 25. Just get straight to the point, because I'm going to bring out a lot of different precepts, and it's going to be all over, jumping all over through the Bible. And there's so many that you could bring out on these different topics. Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. It says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So there was an actual man that came out red. Esau in the Hebrew means wasted away, because his skin was wasted away. He didn't have his melanin color. That's why it didn't really go into the color of Jacob, because he looked just like his mom and his dad. He was people of color just like them, but it was such a big thing about Esau's appearance, because he came out looking different. He came out looking like a so-called white baby, like a pale baby, red all over. He was the color red all over, like a hairy garment, and the hairy garments of ancient time were red garments. So that's why it goes off to tell, okay, it was twins, but this baby came out looking different than the other babies. So no, it's not talking about he was white all over. White in the Bible just means like purified, holy. It's not talking about actual color, unless it's like referring to unless it says the color white, like white wolf, like when it refers to the Lord's hair. But the point is, he came out red all over. Today you would call them so-called white people. That was a curse that was put on them, because if you have ears to hear, Esau was Cain. And he had that marking put on him, which was leprosy. He had his melanin stripped away, and he came back as Esau. Look up the similarities between Abel and Cain. in Jacob and Esau, and you will see that it's all goes back to the same thing. Cain slain his brother. He had hatred against his brother. He slain him. He killed him with a sword. And Esau's blessing was the sword, and he wanted to kill his brother. Here, look, if I jump over Genesis chapter 27, verse 39. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Behold, my dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, and by the sword shall I live. So who lives by the sword on the earth? As a matter of fact, who's the number one superpower on the earth? Who has the best military? That goes into swords, weapons. Who has the most swords, the most nuclear weapons on the earth? It's talking about America, and that goes to a man called, which they call the so-called white men, which are called the Edomites in the Bible. See, this is how it all matches up. It becomes clear. It says, "In the sword shalt thou live, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion." So they have dominion now. Thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck, which they did, and they came into power. Psalms chapter 2, I think, speaks about that. It says, Esau hated Jacob because of his blessing wherewith his father blessed him. So he hated Jacob the same way that Cain hated Abel. Why? Because the Lord blessed Abel, the Lord blessed Jacob. You know, because the Lord liked it, Abel's sacrifice. So therefore, the same way Cain was hating, Esau hated off of us. And it says, Esau said in his heart, the days of the mourning for my father are at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob the same way Cain. That's why Cain slay Abel. That's why I'm trying to tell you had ears to hear. So it's the same curse, but he came back as Esau with that same curse upon him, which is where you get the so-called white man or the white skin, which is really red. Now let's keep going into it. It says back on in the article, it says our lands will see the coming of spinning wheels filled with voices, and they pretty much tells you what that means. It says, in his youth my father saw the prophecy come true with his eyes, the white men bringing their families in wagons across the prairie, right? Because they were sent. Now, if you read 2nd Esdras chapter 13, it tells you how the Native Americans got over here, which is where the Hopi tribe comes from, which they all come from Israelites, the 10 lost tribes, right? But they didn't follow the law, statutes, commandments when they was coming over here. And prophecy had to be fulfilled that the kingdom of Israel, the 10 lost tribes, and the kingdom of Judah will all come back together in mystery Babylon, and they will all come back together to try to follow the Lord. So prophecy had to be fulfilled. So he sent Esau over here, because remember, like we just read in Genesis chapter 27, Esau had got that dominion over the earth. So he's in his kingdom right now to this day. So he sent Esau over here to take the Israelites in slavery that was over here. And then he got the rest of them that were in West Africa and different parts of Africa when they ran from Jerusalem during 70 AD when the Romans was coming, to take over everything. They fled into Africa. He got them, brought them to America, put us all in slavery, where prophecy will be fulfilled that we will all be in slavery together. You see what I'm saying? So that's how it all happened, and prophecy all happened. So yeah, that did happen here. Let's get another here. Let's just go to the obvious one. Let's stay in the precepts to break this down. Hopefully it's be edifying, Deuteronomy 28. Just get straight to the point. Well, actually, verse 15, it says, But it should come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So just like I said, they came over here to follow law, statutes, commandments, but they didn't. So guess what happened? These curses came upon them, which is the same thing that happened to the house of Judah too, the kingdom of Judah too. The same thing happened, we didn't keep the law, statute, commandments, and the same curses came upon us. Now, jump into verse 68. It says, And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt into bondage. It's just synonymous with bondage. Again with ships, right? So it's talking about the transatlantic slave trade, because what people went into slavery on ships. Now, beyond popular belief, the Negroes aren't the only people that went into slavery on ships. The Native Americans were on ships too. They were getting shipped from North America to South America, South America to North America with the Hispanics. So they were getting shipped on ships too. That's what made it a transatlantic slave trade. The same way you had people coming over here from America, from Africa, to be in slavery in America. You had people coming from Americas being shipped to different parts of the world too. So that's what made it a transatlantic slave trade. So that was a prophecy that was fulfilled. So their first two prophecies, or first two signs, are right on, because these things really happen. It says, by the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. So we haven't, as a people, now there are Israelites over there, but as a people, as a whole, we haven't lived in the our land Israel since, and the same thing with them, they haven't either. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there shall be sold unto your enemies for slave man and slave woman, and no man shall buy you, mean no man shall save you or redeem you, which is the same thing with them. They were sold by the hand of the white man, sold into their enemies too, and they had everything taken from them, genocide and all those things, and no man saved them the same way no man saved us, because the Lord is coming back. Remember, the Lord is coming back for vengeance. What's that, Isaiah 34? The Lord is coming back for vengeance and to redeem. Let's see if we could jump to it. This is the Sabbath, so we ain't holding no punches back. We gonna get whatever comes to head, just to prove the point. Isaiah 34 verse 8, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord is coming back to get vengeance for us, and recompense. But let's go into the next one. It says, the rest of the signs are typically listed as follows. It says, this is the third sign. A strange beast like a buffalo, but with great long horns, will overrun the land in large numbers, which they tell you, they says, these white feather saw with his eyes the coming of the white man's cattle. So that's what they say that their sign means, so that's what we gonna go with. That's what they saying, because remember, this is their signs. I'm just making it relate and filtering it through the Bible to show the similarities. It says, this is the fourth sign. The land will be crossed by snakes of iron. On the History Channel, what they were saying, that these was talking about the railroad tracks. So when the white man came, when Esau came, he it was a big thing in history, a big time when they started building the railroad tracks. That helped them come into power, because they had to transport things from one place to another place by the boatload, and they couldn't have survived if they didn't come up with railroad tracks. That helped unite them, so they came and they were in different places of the states of America, but in order to unite them as one power, because you had French, you had Spanish, you had Britain, you had a lot of different Edomites over here, but what helped unite them as one to become the United States of America was the railroad tracks, because now they could transport things and they could build a power structure. Now it says, because it says snakes and iron, railroad tracks, if you look at it from the sky, it look like a snake, because it's slithering, it's curving, and they're usually made out of different metals and iron. It says, the fifth sign, the land should be crisscrossed by a giant spider web. Now, if you looking down and you looking on the power plants and the power lines, it looks like spider webs. I don't know if a lot of brothers ever inquired to buy some land, and you ever seen the land where it had power lines going through the land. A lot of people don't want those lands, right? But the good thing is, that land has access to power too. So it's pros and cons. It just depends on how much is taken up of the land that you want to buy. But if you're looking at it from an aerial view of the property that you're looking at, if it had power lines on it, it looks like spider webs on it. So they're saying that a giant spider web, which also goes into Esau power structure and building America, because that helps with the internet, and it helps spreading the electricity and power so they can unite more. And then everything's digital, and that's helping go to his whole digital system now. But with the power lines, they can spread out that power. That was a big thing. Because now you could build in different places because you have access to power, which all helped to build the mystery Babylon to be the greatest, the first world country. Because if you want to build a first world country, right, you're going to need these two things. You're going to need a transportation system. And what's going to be better than a railroad system? I mean, I drive trucks, so I know you could transport a lot of things with trucks, but not nearly as much as with with a train. Now, using planes and flight, it's too much power, it's too much resources that's taken up to transport those things. So the biggest way to transport things on land is by the railroad systems, and then on water is by ships. So these things is what helped build America to be that first world country. And then power lines, because a lot of third world countries and stuff, what are they missing? They missing power. That's why you have their different leaders making deals to try to set up and bring power, lights, water, energy, and stuff like that. But yeah, that helped America become Mystery Babylon, which you read in Revelations 18. And it says this is the sixth sign. The land should be crossed with rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. And we know what those rivers of stone is. It's talking about your streets, the infrastructure, your highways. If you go to any major city, the richest cities in America, they all have rivers of stone, which are streets. They have highways. Look at a picture of Atlanta. You see a whole bunch of highways. They're going under each other. They're going around each other. They're curving. Some go up and go back under. It's a big highway system to help what? Transportation. So people could get from place to place. So you could have a lot of people living together, civilized together. And then you could have the cities that pretty much the rich get rich off all these people and stay rich off all these people. So let's get back into the book to get some prophecies here. This is Psalms chapter 83, just to give you more insight on who those people was that came up against them, like it was saying in the first two. My father saw the prophecy come true, the white men bringing their families in a wagon. And it says the first time the white-skinned man would come. But what did he come to do? He came to punish them. But it was all by the way of the Lord, though. To put them in slavery and fulfill prophecy. This is Psalms chapter 83, because just like it said in Deuteronomy 28:68, you will be sold into your enemies. Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thy enemies, so there it goes again, make atonement, and they hate thee, have lifted up the head. And this is against all Israel. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So they don't call it, like the Hopi tribe, they don't call themselves Gadites. They don't call themselves Israelites anymore. Right? They call themselves the Hopi tribe now. Same thing with Judah. We call ourselves Negroes or blacks, African Americans. We don't call ourselves Judah, Yahweh anymore. So that was crafty counsel. They took against us, and they took against the 10 tribes when they came over here to America. They always came over here to the Americas with crafty counsel that they were going to take the land to be theirs. They never came over here and say, we're going to share, we're going to be under these people that's inhabited the land. No, they always came with the intentions of, we're going to take this land and make it ours. That was crafty counsel. It says, for they had consulted together with one consent, they have confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, which goes back to Esau. That's who they saying, the so-called white man, in sign number 1 and sign number 2. And the Ishmaelites and Moab and the Hagnors and all these different nations played a part into it. That's why they all have judgment and punishment that's going to be coming to them for that. But it was all to fulfill prophecy, you know. So this had to happen to fulfill prophecy. This is, let me jump out. Jeremiah chapter 50, right? Verse 4. This was the prophecy that had to be fulfilled, right? Matter of fact, verse 3, it says, "For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, and they shall depart, both man and beast," right? But it says, "In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah." So it's saying the children of Israel is making the distinction. That means talking about the lost 10 tribes, which is the northern kingdom, the children of Israel. Salahi. And it's talking about the southern kingdom, which is the children of Judah. And it says together, going and weeping, meaning the Negroes, Benjamin, Levi scattered, we would be taken from West Africa into slavery, and we would end up in mystery Babylon, which is what? Which is where the other 10 tribes was at. And we would be back reunited together, and we would go and weeping, and they should go and seek the Lord their God. So we will all come together and seek the Lord our God. And that goes into their 8th sign, but I don't want to skip over the 7th sign. The 7th sign says you will hear the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. So you will see the sea turning black and many living things. So let's hold that. We're going to come back to that 7th sign. But this goes into the 8th sign. It says you will see many youth who wear their hair long like my people come and join the tribal nations and learn their way in wisdom. Meaning we will wake up during these end times. We would come back together and follow the Lord. And then you will have the prophecy of Jeremiah 50 verse 4 fulfilled. But now let's jump back into this 7th sign, right? Let's jump back into the 7 signs. Revelations. Let's go to the book of Revelations. And a lot of their prophecies matches up with the book of Revelations. So somebody must have read the book of Revelations, or maybe, we gonna figure it out. Revelations chapter 8, verse 10, it says, no, not that one. Not that one. It says, verse 9. It says, "In the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed." This is talking about, I want to get some context on that. Verse 8, it says, "And the second angel sounded." So the second angel sounded, "and it was as a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea." That great mountain is talking about America. It's talking about mystery Babylon. It goes into Revelations chapter 18, because what it's saying is that the mountains are kingdoms. We read about that in Daniel, in the book of Daniel chapter 2. The mountains are kingdoms, and mystery Babylon, the mountain of mystery Babylon, is going to be destroyed with fire. We read about that in Revelation chapter 18, and it's going to be cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. But it says, "In the third part of creatures which were in the sea had life and died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed." And it goes into what they say the 7th sign is, you will hear of the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. And this is both part because Esau being wicked, and all his dirtiness and all they trash that they put into the sea, and then it's going to come by the way of nuclear weapons too, which are going to make the sea wormwood, which goes into their 9th and last sign, which is going to contaminate the waters, and a lot of different living things are going to be destroyed. But let's jump back to Job chapter 9 and prove a little bit of this. This is Job chapter 9, verse 24. It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" So the earth was given to the hands of the wicked. Who is he? He's the Edomites that was ruling. Because if you go back to 2nd Esdras, see, we're going to jump all over. That's why I said bear with me, because we're going to jump all over to get context and get the proof, right? 2nd Esdras 6 and 9, "Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that follows." Meaning that Esau will be in rulership at the end of the world, and that's what we're talking about, the end time prophecies. And Jacob will be the kingdom, the world that comes after, which they also go into talking about, a time of peace after all this destruction. So the wicked, if Esau's in rulership, but the Job 9 and 24 says the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, then we know the wicked is Esau. And as a matter of fact, Malachi Let's jump to that one, because like I like how the apostles was breaking it down. They said, look, it's pretty much say there's new people in it. Maybe just because we know, there's new people that don't know these things. So you have to take the time out to break these things down. Malachi chapter 1, verse 4. Whereas Edom say, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They should call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord has indignation for forever. Meaning Esau is the wicked on the earth. He's called the border of wicked, meaning he's the most wickedest people on the earth. And that's the term that the Lord gave for them. So back in Job 9:24, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, right? So let's jump to Proverbs. This is Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. So it's not just the wicked, it's just not the people that's mourning, it's the whole earth. It's the trees, the plant life, the earth itself, the sea life, the people. Is all that when the wicked is in rulership. And we see that with the wicked being in rulership right now. You have a thing called global warming. There's trash everywhere. There's a pandemic because of all the dirtiness and stuff like that. So you see that happening. But just like with the Hopi tribe, say the time after the ninth sign, it's talking about when the righteous is going to be in rulership, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven. And that's going to be when the Israelites are in rulership, which is spoke about in Revelations 21. Let's jump into it, that new rulership. Revelations 21, verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth was passed away, meaning the first rulership, heaven and earth is still here. But the first rulership of the heaven and the earth was passed away. That's Esau. We read about that in 2 Ezra 6 and 9. Now it's a new heaven, new earth. It's a new rulership. The Israelites, the righteous, are into rulership. Verse 2. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. We are people before we're a place, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Right? And I heard a voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they should be his people. See, it's talking about the people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. And that's talking about when the Israelites are in rulership. Right? So let's keep going on this. We're probably going to jump back into Revelations chapter 8 and finish off that part, because the ninth sign, it says this is the ninth and last sign. You would hear of a dwelling place in heaven above the earth that shall fall with a great crash, and it shall appear as a blue star. Very soon after, the ceremonies of people will cease. The ceremonies of my people will cease. So it's a blue star that's going to appear in heaven. It's going to be magnificent, right? Like just a great star. And it's going to fall with a great crash. It's going to destroy everything. It's going to bring the second death, right? And Revelations 8 tells you exactly what it's talking about. And I'll break it down. This is Revelations chapter 8. It says, because I read verse 9, right? I'll read it again. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Which is talking about the what their seventh sign is talking about, right? Now back to their ninth sign, says verse 10, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star. So it's talking about the same great star as it says, and there will appear a blue star in their ninth sign. And it says from heaven, see? So this blue star in the heavens, dwelling place in the heavens, and in the Bible, Revelations 8 verse 10, talking about a great star in heavens, burning. See, so it's gonna be burning. You're gonna see a lot of light coming off of it. The same way they say it's a blue star. It says, as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third parts of the river. So it came crashing down. The same way they said that it shall fall with a great crash. And it says, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter, meaning they were contaminated, which goes back into your seventh sign. You would hear of the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. Why? Because the waters are going to be contaminated because of this great star that falls called wormwood. And we know that that's talking about a nuclear missile, a thermonuclear missile, whatever you want to call it, a nuclear weapon that's going to come down, a hypersonic nuclear weapon that's going to come down, the ICBM that's going to come down, and it says it's going to hit the waters, and the waters are going to become wormwood, meaning they're going to become contaminated, and a lot of things in the waters are going to die, and men are going to die because of this, and this is going to cause all hell and destruction. Because if you jump back to Revelation chapter 6 verse 12, it says, I behold, when I held open the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as a sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Because when the nuclear weapon goes off, a gigantic mushroom cloud goes up, and all that debris and contamination goes up into the sky, and it blocks out the sun. And there's a great rumbling of the earth. There's, a wind blast and all those things of the earth. And it says, and the stars of heaven, so it's talking about the stars of heaven, fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely fig when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island removed out of its place. So it's going to be a gigantic nuclear powerful bomb nuclear missile that's going to go off, and it's going to be so powerful that it's going to be moving things out the way. It's going to be earthquakes, tsunamis going on, contamination of the water, destruction, blast, fire blast. Whoever got it, which is probably Russia with the Satan 1 and Satan 2 or whatever, it's going to destroy, it's going to do a lot of destruction. And it says, but this is the point, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bond, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and the rocks of the mountains, and said unto the mountains and the rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb. So they're going to be trying to hide in their bunkers. That's what the face of the mountains and the dens just talking about, their bunkers that's inside of the mountains and stuff, and underground and stuff like that. But they're going to know that this is the wrath that's coming from the Lamb, with the Lamb is Yahushua. It says, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So this is prophecy that we've been teaching, that the apostles been teaching forever, and we still teaching to this day. In the Hopi tribe, they have their own way of saying, look, there's 9 signs, but it's very similar with the prophecies of the Bible. Why? Because they're Israelites just like we're Israelites. Just like you had John in Revelations, John the Revelator explained a war in the heavens, but Ezra in 2nd Esdras chapter 13 explained that same war. He had that same vision. He had that same exact vision. He explained that same war in the heavens, but he explained it in a different way. He said it was a mountain that came down. He seen one on top of it. The man came out. The Motu, a man came out to subdue him. It speaks about it in Revelation chapter 12. John said it was a war in the heaven. Michael and the angels fought against the dragon. So they speaking about it in the same ways, but they're in different ways, but it's talking about the same exact things. Here, this is 2nd Esdras 13. But I want to, you could just read from verse 1 all the way down to verse 12, but I think I wanted to see something else. The 2nd Esdras chapter 13, I wanted to get something else, but it says, verse 29, behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And the Hopi tribe like to say, I was doing some research on them. You could do this research. They say that those pure of the heart is going to be saved, which is talking about the elect of Israel. Now, in 2nd Esdras 13, it says, behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth, and he should come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one ram against another. And the time should be when these things should come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, who thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. So when they're going to war, World War III, they're fighting against each other. They're going to lead those battles, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them, referring back to 2nd Esdras 13, 1 through 12, right? Um, as thou sawest them willing to come in to overcome him by fighting. So then all the armies of the earth is going to try to fight against the Lord. They're going to be fighting against each other. They're going to come together to fight against the Lord. But he shall stand upon the top of Mount Sion. So he's for the Israelites. And it speaks about that same thing. If you go to Revelation chapter 7, it tells you verse 3 saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. And I heard a number of them which were sealed, and there was sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So it goes to the same thing how the Hopi tribe say the pure heart is going to be saved, which is really talking about the elect that's going to be saved. But if you go to Revelation chapter 19, you see how John explains that same thing, which I just read in 2nd Esdras 13. He says, verse 19, I saw the beast, Revelation 19, verse 19, I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So he's talking about the same thing. They came together to fight against him. But you see how they said it kind of like in different ways. So I feel like that's what's going on with us reading the Bible and with the Hopi tribe. We saying the same thing, same prophecies, but just in different ways. But the Lord's given us the understanding to break down what these prophecies mean and what's going to happen. You know, I want to go back to sign 8 just to go into that one more. Just a couple more scriptures on it. This is Daniel chapter 12. Man, I could go forever. It's like so many scriptures is popping up the head. But I'm not going to, I got to remember not to make it too long for you guys too. You know how Jake's attention span is. This is Daniel chapter 12. Because their 8th sign says, you will see many youth who wear their hair long like my people come and join the tribal nations to learn ways and wisdom. Daniel 12 tells us the same thing. It says, verse 1, at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. Even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in a book. And see, this is the point. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. So there is going to be a great awakening where where the Israelites are going to wake up, some to everlasting life, which we could go into Zechariah chapter 13, the 1/3, and then some to everlasting shame and contempt. And we could go into that too. But it says, but their 8th sign says, come and join the tribal nations to learn the ways of wisdom. So some are going to wake up and get that ways of wisdom, which is having faith in the Lord, you know, following law, statutes, and commandments, which are the ways of wisdom, you know, the commandments. You know, here, let me get one more, because this is really like the, you know, the haymaker, you know, right here. Because they're talking about their prophecies and end time prophecies. Well, this is Matthew chapter 24. Right? Verse 5. For many should come in my name, saying I am Christ, and should deceive many. We've seen that over the history. You know. And ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. All these things should come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall arise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Right? It says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye should be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So that's how we know we get into the end of the time. This is our prophecies to tell us it's the end of times. It says, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. Which the Hopi try to say that same thing. They say the pure heart that endure to the end. It says, and then verse 14 it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for the witness unto the nations, and then shall the end come. And Esau had to build up with the fourth sign, their fifth sign, and their sixth sign. He had to build up the infrastructure. He had to build up the World Wide Web, which also goes into what they say this is the fifth sign. You know, he had to build up the World Wide Web. You can't just think and pop up on the World Wide Web. Not yet, until they come out with the Elon Musk Neural chip, right? You have to have the power plants, the power lines to create the power and electricity, and then you could use devices, and then you could hook up to signals that come from other devices, and then you could hook up to the World Wide Web. So that goes into their fifth sign too. The power plants, the power lines, and the World Wide Web. That's why it says this land should be crisscrossed by a giant spider web. That all goes into the same thing. Now, we needed the World Wide Web, which the Lord created and gave to us, which is how you're watching this YouTube video, which anybody around the world could watch this YouTube video for verse 14 to happen. And this gospel of the kingdom should be preached in all the world for a witness unto all the nations, and then shall the end come. So when you go out there to camp, and you being diligent and on fire, and you out there in camp and you breaking down the truth, brothers in Africa can watch your videos. Brothers in China can watch it. Brothers in Russia, brothers in America, South America, Central America can all watch your video. I got partners, I got brothers that I know personally in Mexico that watches my videos sometimes, that could get edifying breakdown. There's camps out there. So that's what it means, you know. That's how this gospel was spread by the World Wide Web. So all they signs, I mean, it matches up with the prophecies of the Bible. And this will let us, it says, and then shall the end come, since we're talking about end time prophecy, right? So let's see what else they got on here. Hopi aren't alone when it comes to prophecies about how the world will end either. Right. I wanted to see if they said anything about the pure at heart. If this article goes into that. Yeah, I'm just scanning through. I can't find anything. Yeah, I can't really find anything because I'm moving through it too fast. I'll just finish up here in Matthews. Well, it says right here, it says, right here, it says, these changes are going to be somewhat difficult for those who have lived the materialistic life, because of the new life the elders are talking about is a return to laying down values and principles that whatever we create in our life must be grounded with those values, which goes back to what are those values? We know them to be the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. So you live in a materialistic life, you living in a first world country, you can get by doing a whole bunch of wicked stuff. But when all that stuff's taken away and you have to resort back to nature and law, statutes, and commandments, those of them that know them, we're gonna, like the Lord say, He's gonna make a man more precious than fine gold in Isaiah chapter 13, because we know these law, statutes, and commandments. We know how to deal. It says, He said the principles of our understanding of the survival of the people have always been based on peace, harmony, and respect of all of life, which goes back. That's what the law, statutes, commandments give you. It gives you peace, harmony, and respect. You know, but the other nations, they have a judgment coming. They have a punishment coming for the things they did. So they have to go through that, you know. And then as for us, we served our punishment here. Might as well get it, you know, since we ain't holding no punches, right? If I could get to it right here. Because somebody might say, well, where does it say that? Jeremiah 49, verse 12. For thus saith the Lord, because they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have surely drunk of it. The Israelites, we are supposed to be a holy people, but we sinned against the Lord. We read this in Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. So we had to drink of that cup of judgment. Art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? So should Esau go unpunished for the things he did? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. I have sworn myself, say unto the Lord, that Basra shall become a desolation, reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual wastes. And that's talking about America, and all the cities in America are going to be perpetual wastes for what they did. So they have a judgment. They have to, Basra goes back to Esau and the Edomites. They're going to have to, and the Lord said, I sworn by myself, they're going to have to go through that punishment for what they did. And then you're going to get Obadiah chapter 1, verses 18. They're going to be wiped out. That's their judgment, you know. But verse 27 back in Matthew 24, for as lightning coming out the east and shining even to the west, so shall also be the coming of the Son of Man. For whatsoever the carcass is, there should be eagles that gather together. Immediate after tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. We read about that in Revelation chapter 6. And the stars of heaven shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of the Man coming with clouds of heaven, with power and great glory, which also goes into their sign, sign 8, the 8th sign. You will see many of the youth who wear long hair, my people, come and join the tribal nation and learn the ways of wisdom. It says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound and a trumpet, and they shall gather together the elect from the four winds and from one end of the heaven to the other. So that's salvation. Now, when they do go into the 9th and last sign, it says with a great clash, but there's going to be another sign in the heavens, which is going to be the Lord coming back with all the chariots of Israel. He coming back with the clouds and power, right? Verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of the Man in heaven. So when he comes back, that's going to be a great sign too. Here, I'll end it off with this one. Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, behold, he cometh with the clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. Which it just said the exact same thing in Matthew chapter 24. So with that, hopefully this has been edifying. I want to say salvation to the elect. Shalom.